Good morning and welcome back to Keto Living with Dale and Judith. On today's video, we're going to discuss how my husband Dale controls his blood sugar, having type 2 diabetes by eating keto foods. Come on, walk with me. Now, this is just our experience. This is not medical advice. Please discuss any diet changes with your doctor. And Dale does not take insulin. We don't have to worry about low blood sugars. That's important to know. If you use insulin, you need to be careful to be able to eat enough carbs. The key is Dale has to test his blood sugar 2 hours after he eats. If he eats breakfast at 5, test at 7. Lunch at noon, test at 2. If his sugar is 120 or above, he gains weight. If his sugar is below 120, he loses weight. That helps me see what to feed him. When Dale gains weight, it means his cells are not burning all the carbs he's eating. The body is storing the extra carbs as fat because the carbs you eat are turned into sugar and they're either burned in your cells or they're stored as fat because the insulin that helps you burn carbs also stores carbs as fat. So if you're not burning the carbs because your cells are resistant to insulin, then the job of that insulin is to move those carbs over into your fat cells. When I mention carbs, I'm meaning net carbs. That is the carbs in a food minus the fiber. We refer to that as net carbs. And that's what you count on a keto and low carb diet. Dale's not a big meat and vegetable guy, so he needs all of those special keto foods like keto breads, chips, cookies, etc. And that's hard to fit in when you're only eating 20 net carbs a day. So Dale eats low carb. A good starting point for low carb is 100 grams of net carbs or less for the whole day. And that's where you want to start if you're wanting to eat low carb. If you're wanting to eat strictly keto, most people start at 20 grams of net carbs a day, but Dale would go crazy trying to do that. We do also count calories. That's important for us. In my experience, only counting net carbs at the beginning, when you're starting to lose weight, that works because you have so much weight to lose. But after about a year, your hunger's going to increase and those extra calories are going to make a difference and you're going to start gaining weight back. And it's important to measure and weigh all of your food. I mean, all of it. Don't assume. Then you need some type of app to document your food. And we found that we like the app Carb Manager. They have a free version, but we do pay for the subscription. We think it's worth it. And we count point net carbs too. Like 2.4, we count that 0.4 net carbs because that adds up fast. and we log our meals ahead of time. Our approach is not, what do you feel like eating right now? And we enter the food and then it's like, oops, we went over. Nope. I plan the meals. And I have a set menu for Dale. Every Monday, he has the same breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every Tuesday, the same breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that really helps me keep it under control. We don't take a, let's see what I want to eat today approach. How do I know what to feed Dale and what foods not to feed Dale? Well, testing his sugar 2 hours after eating, if it's above 120, I analyze what he ate. Was it something new? How much did he eat? What time of day did he eat it? For example, Dale cannot eat the recommended fourth a cup of blueberries. Typically, that's what keto tells you to eat, a fourth a cup with a fat. His sugar spikes. He can only eat 1 ounce of berries, which isn't very much, included in something like our keto yogurt. Keto sweetener maltitol in our imitation honey. He can't eat that. We've tried many times over the years. Any product with maltitol spikes his blood sugar. His body processes it like regular sugar. Any new food, 2 hours afterwards, we really watch to see how it affects him. His keto bread, for dinner, having a grilled cheese sandwich with 2 slices is fine. But for breakfast, 2 slices spikes his blood sugar. So that's why that testing 2 hours after he eats is so important. It's a lot of trial and error. That's where the Carb Manager app helps. It will have carb ratings for food. Good for keto, not good for keto. Sometimes we follow it, sometimes we don't. He does eat things like carrots and beets, which aren't recommended, but we test after he eats those things. So join the Carb Manager app and set up your profile, age, sex, height, weight, etc. Then pick either the keto diet or the low carb diet. They have a lot of diet options on there. You're going to pick enable counting calories and net carbs, and I think you have to set up that you want to track point net carbs. Then the app is going to recommend your calorie level, fats, protein, and net carbs. Start with that. Then test your blood sugar 2 hours after you eat. And for Dale, 120 or above means have to adjust it. He can't eat the 100 grams of net carbs. He has to eat 60 grams of net carbs, so I have to adjust that. But typically I don't have to adjust his calories. I'm not real strict on following the recommended amount of fat and protein, because if I follow the 60 grams of net carbs and the calories, the fat and the protein, they kind of take care of themselves. But you can do that. You can make sure you're matching all those macros. But testing blood sugar 2 hours after eating, that's the key. And when we experience Dale's blood sugar being high, even though the next day, if he eats the right number of net carbs and calories and all of that, his sugar is still going to be high because the liver stores excess sugar for 3 days. So if you eat too many carbs, net carbs, say your sugar was 150 or your sugar was 200 or whatever it is, and then you're really strict the next day and your sugar's still high, you're going to wonder why. It's because your liver is going to store sugar for 3 days. And it's going to take a minimum of 3 days to burn through that sugar. That's the big reason we don't do cheat days. If we have a cheat day on Saturdays and Dale eats too many net carbs, either keto foods or high carb foods, those extra carbs, of course, on Saturday are going to cause his sugar to be high. Sunday, his sugar is also going to be high. Monday, it'll be high. And Tuesday, it'll be high. It's not going to matter if Sunday he eats and follows strictly his net carb limit, and Monday he eats the right amount of net carbs, and Tuesday he eats the right amount of net carbs, because on Saturday, those extra carbs, his liver stored those carbs as sugar and probably put some of the fat cells too. Then on Sunday, his liver released some of the sugar. Monday it released sugar. And Tuesday it released sugar. And hopefully, if he's been eating his proper level of net carbs, his liver has stopped releasing sugar. And Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, he's back to a normal blood sugar. But if we cheat again on Saturday, that cycle starts all over. That's why we don't do cheat days. Now, you'll hear some people talk about carb loading. That's typically athletes. They're eating keto for sports performance, for health reasons. They don't struggle with insulin resistance. Their cells burn sugar normally. That's not us. That's not Dale and I. I'm not diabetic, but I am insulin resistant. Almost at the store, it's right down there, so let's review. Dale eats about 60 net carbs a day. That's based on testing his blood sugar 2 hours after he eats. He also tests his fasting blood sugar in the morning, 2 hours after breakfast, 2 hours after lunch, 2 hours after dinner, and 2 hours after his evening snack. If his blood sugar is above 120, it means he's not burning all of those net carbs. Then we adjust. We have him eat less net carbs, eliminate certain foods, adjust the timing, etc. All of this we document in the app Carb Manager. We follow calories and net carbs too. And the calories, it's based on his height, 6'2" male, and his age. He can eat a lot more than me. I'm only a 5'7" woman. If he cheats, his blood sugar is high for 3 days, no matter if he gets back on track those next 3 days. And that's why we don't cheat. Of course, he's human, and he has had times where he hasn't strictly followed his net carbs, typically snacking in the evenings. Right now, he's doing a great job. He's really sticking to his macros. Now, you're going to hear different numbers probably from your doctor. 2 hours after eating, 180 for blood sugar is fine. But organ damage happens with a blood sugar of 150 up. So for me, 180 is not acceptable. Dale does not use insulin, so low blood sugar is not an issue with him. If you're on insulin, low blood sugar can be dangerous. Type 2 diabetes is a progressive disease. It means it's expected to get worse over time. That's the reason it's important for Dale to keep testing his sugar 2 hours after every meal. I haven't really checked on this lately. I do know his fasting blood sugar's in the morning, but that's why it's important to keep checking. Right now, his A1C is normal. His fasting blood sugar in the morning is below 100. and he's at a healthy BMI and weight. Healthy weight and BMI also helps control your blood sugar. But I do try to focus on nutritious whole foods and minimally processed keto foods. I also limit his keto desserts. I try to limit what I call non-nutritious foods. Like, for an example, right now in the winter, every morning he has hot chocolate with a keto marshmallow. That's really more of a fun food. It's not really nutritious or adding to his nutrition. So I try to limit those types of food and focus on meat, vegetables, cheese, eggs, things from the whole foods groups. But in the beginning, he did have to depend on a lot more keto processed foods that helped him stick with it. And over time, his taste buds changed. And because this is a progressive disease, I've noticed any time he's gone off of his low carb, eaten too many carbs for an extended amount of time, when he's gotten back on it, he's had to lower the amount of net carbs that he eats. So we first started keto in 2005. And we got his blood sugar pretty much back to normal. Then we moved out of state. He got a new doctor that told him he wasn't diabetic. And it's because his sugar was normal, because he'd been eating the right amount of net carbs. Dale was excited and a little bit stubborn and just started eating whatever he wanted. And of course, his blood sugar went up. So where he had been able to eat 100 grams of net carbs and things like peanuts, they just really didn't spike his blood sugar. When he finally went back on low carb, which was about 2018, he couldn't eat 100 grams of net carbs anymore. He couldn't eat peanuts as a snack. So your cells can become more and more insulin resistant, and that's a good motivation to stick with it. Dale has a big motivation right now to control his blood sugar, and that is to preserve his liver function. He has normal liver function right now, but he does have liver cancer. Fortunately, it has not spread, and he's waiting for a liver transplant. The cancer was caused by a birth defect that we didn't know he had. Blood comes into your liver through the artery. The liver filters your blood, and that filtered blood leaves through your vessels, your veins, and they all have specific names. When Dale's mom was 5 weeks pregnant, the artery and the vein connected with something called a shunt, meaning some blood bypasses his liver and never gets filtered. And those shunts can become cancerous later in life. We just happened to find this liver cancer. About every month or month and a half, he has to have chemo placed directly into that liver tumor to keep it from spreading so that he can still get a liver transplant. So it's important we keep the liver healthy. That's a big reason to control his blood sugar, because high blood sugar can lead to liver damage. Thank you for visiting Keto Living with Dale and Judith. See you later. Bye-bye.